And she was like, yeah, my grandfather grew up there. He's a moonshiner. And I'm like, oh, okay.
He's a
And she's like
what?
telling me a moonshiner. Like
I was
her
just gonna
family.
say, I bet you there were moonshiners
Oh,
there.
yes. Yes. It was like a whole mountain of moonshiners.
Hi, Terri Gillespie here, and welcome to A2A, Author to Author interview. This month, my featured author is Amanda Cox, and I can't wait to get to know her and for you to get to know her as well. But first, I have some housekeeping, and that housekeeping is, the usual spiel, which is please like, comment, and share and subscribe because this helps with the algorithm that makes Amanda's new book, Between the Sound and the Sea, makes it more visible. And we want that because I'm telling you, this is an incredible book. Plus, we have a really fun giveaway as well. So, and if you're not a subscriber, if you can click that red button, and when the little white bell comes up, you just click that and you won't miss any future episodes or giveaways. Okay, so are you ready to meet this inspiring, talented, award winning, best selling author? Well, here she is, Amanda Cox. Welcome.
There I am. Double click that button there. Hi, Terry. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's my pleasure, believe me. Now, Amanda, are you still a practicing counselor or have you, that's writing taken over?
Writing has definitely taken over. Writing actually kind of started for me when my second child was about to be born, and just between trying to figure out what life was, we wanted life to look like as a family, I decided to stay home with them while they were small. And that's when writing kind of really got started for me, and it's kind of where I stayed. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now.
So, as a busy mom and writer, very successful writer, how do my viewers and my readers keep in touch with you?
You can find me at amandacoxwrites.com. That's my website where I have a lot of updates. If you have a book club and you're looking for book club resources, things like that are available there. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram a lot. If you search Amanda Cox Writes, you'll find me. And so, Instagram, I'm always posting some goofy video or some other thing.
And by the way, down below in the description section, all of those links are there for you. So you can go to her website and go to her social media pages and keep in touch with this busy lady. So also be sure and read our blog interview for even more fascinating information about Amanda, including what she learned while writing Between the Shore and the Sea. And I think you'll all be very interested in that. Also, I have to say, Amanda, your book, Between the Sound and the Sea, was so good. I haven't cried repeatedly while reading a novel in probably a long time. So you did it, girl. So it was powerful, it was emotional, it was suspenseful, there were mysteries, there's historical information, which I don't know. Can you share a little bit of that, or would that be like a spoiler?
Could share a little bit about it. It's a lot of what kind of inspired me to write the story and the location that I wrote it. Because growing up, I had no idea about the World War II history that was related to the Eastern coast. I heard about Pearl Harbor and things like that, but I ran across an article several years back that talked about U-boat bombings like 7 miles from the coast of the United States. And I was like, wow, that's just wild. And so I started looking into the history of that area as a part of, that story. So Between the Sound and Sea is very much a contemporary set story, but one of the characters in the book lived during that time, and his best friend lived during that time, and so it played a lot into the story, what happened during that time frame. But yeah, it was just really wild, and so I've taken a couple of trips to the area for research just to try to really get the feel of the area accurately on the page. And so it was really fun meeting different people and chatting with them who, they didn't necessarily grow up there during that time period, but they have grandparents and great grandparents that would tell stories. And there was all these rumors that get passed around that you're trying to like sort through, is this fact or fiction? And you're not quite sure because it's gone to the status of legend at this point, of like German soldiers actually setting foot on American soil, going to the movie theater, being found with ticket stubs in their pockets from, and or like rumors of chickens being stolen, and so it was credited to the German soldiers. And so it's like wild stories, and you're just like, wait, like are you pulling my leg right now, or is this a serious story? And so there's so many fun stories that I heard talking with people. And so when I was writing Between the Sound and Sea, I had to have some like legends and rumors and like what really happened to this last lightkeeper and his daughter, and the mystery that kind of surrounded that. So I definitely had to kind of write some fictional legends into it for sure.
Yeah, it has kind of a spooky feeling, um, with this thought ghost stories and things like that. So that's always fun. I like what Jamie Jo Wright says. She said, I like to write scary where you think it's a ghost, but really it's like Scooby Doo when, you know, it's just the janitor and a sheet, but it still gets you good and spooked up. So,
Oh yeah.
but I'll tell you what was a little frightening, um, was the fact that there were U-boots, U boats. That's going to go in the shorts. Um, in They were shooting vessels, American private vessels, and
Yeah.
that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. And then those ships were used to supply as a supply chain to the Allied forces, and they were like just 7 miles from the coast, and they were unarmed. They were not like, they didn't have any sort of protection. They're just, and it even happened with like civilian passage ships and things like that too. And it was just very devastating. They were, anytime that happened, it was very rare that someone would survive that. Um, but it was just wild to kind of hear about that. In Ocracoke, there's actually a graveyard that has British soldiers. So the British government still to this day has property within the United States that is there to honor those British soldiers. And so every year in Ocracoke, they have a ceremony to honor that, like still today, to honor those soldiers that washed up on the shores of Ocracoke as a result of one of these attacks.
Isn't it kind of scary to think that Nazis were that close to invading
Yeah, and no,
the
and like
eastern
the rest of the
seaboard?
country didn't know about it. Like they, and it's because like the Outer Banks, especially at that time, because there weren't the network of like bridges and things like that, they kind of lived kind of a world to themselves in a sense, and you weren't supposed to talk about what they saw. Their
Yeah.
knickknacks, there's like accounts of their knickknacks getting rattled off of the mantle because of the I can't think of the right word, but
Torpedoes and
yeah, the sound waves and everything from the impact.
yeah, the concussive
Yeah,
noises and
it's
yeah,
like I'm like that's the word I think.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. So, the other thing that I really love about your books, Amanda, is that you're able to do quirky characters. And I love quirky characters. Now, your book, He Should Have Told the Bees. Uh, that was phenomenal because you were able to, even though I cried more at the other one, this one just was so powerful because it, got to get your name there, because it dealt with mental issues and psychological things. So I'm sure that your counseling degree really helps.
Yes. Yeah, it comes in a lot with the way that I develop and I think about my characters. I think about them a lot as, if I was sitting down with this person, what questions, would I ask them? What to get to know like who they are when I meet them, how they got to that point, and also knowing like who they would like to be as opposed like what things need to happen in their life in order to move forward to a more healthy way of life. And so, yeah, especially with He Should Have Told the Bees, that came in a lot with those characters because they had been through some pretty rough stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the sense of betrayal and everything else, and how do you navigate all of that is, it was great. It was
Thank you.
great. Got my noggin working. So, I read the first paragraph, maybe even a little bit more, but I read the first paragraph of Between the Sound and the Sea. But my viewers love it when the authors read their own book. And I actually had one viewer that said she gets goosebumps. So, is that something you can do for us?
Sure. I am going to read chapter 2 to you all. I like this chapter a
Ooh.
lot. I had a lot of fun writing it. So this is October 2007 in the Pamlico Sounds of North Carolina. You'll never find me, Wally. Not today, not ever. Kay's light-filled voice floated on the wind, tickling his ears. Walt took a right fork in the twisting deer trail through the live oaks. He might stand a chance if he kept her talking. I almost found you last time. Did not. I'm the queen of hide and seek. She chortled, sounding a little farther away this time. He grinned. That cheater. She wasn't supposed to change hiding spots. He quickened his pace. If you were the queen, does that make me the king? More like the jester. This time she sounded a little farther to the left. You moved. No wonder you always win. No reply followed. He continued down the narrow, winding path through the maritime forest of spindly pine and live oak. He froze as darkness fell around him, sudden and thick, like someone had plucked the sun from the sky. Kay, where are you? Silence throbbed in his ears. Forget the game. Come out. Let's go home. He attempted to continue on the pitch black path, legs leaden. Wally! The sound of her strangled cry sucked the air from his lungs. He fought his way forward, limbs tearing at his face, but his legs refused to cooperate. He dropped to his knees and crawled. Please, let's just make it home. He wasn't sure if the words that spilled from him were meant to call out to his friend or to God. Walt sat up, bumping his head on the ceiling of his boat's shallow berth. He gripped his forehead and groaned. His skin was slick with sweat. He took a few moments to catch his breath, then heaved his aching body out of bed and went above deck out into the night. The sailboat rocked softly, anchored in place on the Pamlico Sound. The cool breeze evaporated the moisture on his skin, causing him to shiver. He sat on the bench seat at the bow of the boat and looked up, arms wrapped around his middle, eyes feasting on the millions of pinpricks of light in the night sky. He then peered through the dark toward the barely visible silhouette of the old lighthouse. He wasn't sure why his 60-year marriage had put a moratorium on the dreaming of his childhood friend, but the dreams were back now, relentless, driving him back to his old stomping grounds now that his Martha was gone. Maybe his plan to set right the mistakes of his past wouldn't stop the haunting dreams or the ache in his chest, but he owed it to Kay to at least try.
So good. So good. We get to learn some of the backstory of Wally, who has now purchased the lighthouse to renovate it. And he does it for his friend. And we don't know why he feels so compelled to do that. And the journey is so powerful. It's just so powerful. So keep on writing those books. Speaking of which, what are you writing next?
Oh, I am right now on a deadline that for August 1st.
Oh, well, thank
Crunch time
you.
right crunch time right now for me. But I have a title. It's called The Bitter End Birding Society. I'm always a little hesitant to share a whole lot about what the story is about until I get those developmental edits back because I'm like, what, is it going to change or not? But I can tell you a little bit about it. When I started out and I had an idea for the story, I'm not a plotter. I don't have everything all plotted out, but I thought what I was going to be writing was a very contemporary set book with a ensemble cast of these ragtag bird watchers who are kind of thrown together through various circumstances, and it's kind of humorous, kind of heartbreaking because they all have like things going on in their life, and it was going to be a very contemporary set. That was my plan, but that's not what happened because apparently I can't write a book without having some aspect of the past weaving into the story. And it all came about because when I was first writing the book, I wanted to set it in like a quirky sounding town name in Tennessee. And so I looked up what are like the weirdest names of towns in Tennessee because there's some fantastic ones,
Yeah.
like Frog Jump. And Bitter End came up, and I'm like, okay, Bitter
Mm,
End, Tennessee. That place has to have like a name or reason. And so I told my husband, I'm like, this is where I'm setting the next book. I'm like, let's take a trip there. It's like 4 or 5 hours from where we live, and see what the area is like because I researched online and I couldn't really find anything. And so we put it in the GPS and we drive, got the kids in the back of the van, and we get to Roan Mountain, Tennessee, that kind of area, which is kind of like the northeast corner of Tennessee. And we are following the GPS. We go up this winding mountain road, and like there's a few houses, but there's like nothing up there. Okay. And there's no like, sometimes you drive into a town, there's the little green sign that says welcome to wherever. And we're like, and then the GPS says you've arrived in Bitter End, Tennessee. And we're just like on top of a mountain. And we're like, okay. And so we go back down the mountain and we're like, maybe we got like something wrong with the GPS and we're going all around trying to figure it out. We ask people and they're like, we have never heard of Bitter End. We don't know what you're talking about. We go everywhere. And see, I live in a family of extroverts and I'm the introvert. And so you never know what you're going to get yourself into, right? And so my husband, being the extrovert, sees a man mowing his lawn. He's like, I'm going to go ask him. I'm like, who? He's like, the guy mowing his lawn. And so he pulls into his driveway, stops the guy who's mowing the lawn because he's like determined now to get to the bottom of this. Um, we end up in these people's living room in this historic home surrounded by Victorian dolls. And she's
uh,
telling me, and I'm just like, I'm like, this could be either be really cool or this could be like a start to a Jamie Joe Wright book. Okay.
yeah.
And so anyway, she knows all about the history of, the area that the house is because they had bought it. And so still we don't know what the story of Bitter End, but we know all about the story of this house. We like last ditch ever. I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, maybe I can just make a fictional Bitter End. We end up at one of our last stops was Roan Mountain State Park, and we're in the gift shop. And so we asked the lady, do you know anything about Bitter End? Now we've asked like 10, 15 people, and they're just like, we have no idea. And she's like, oh yeah, I know where Bitter End is. She's like, I grew up there. And she's like, my grandfather grew up there. And she's like, only the people who lived in Bitter End know it by Bitter End because it got like eventually absorbed by the other towns around it, the other town around it. And she was like, yeah, my grandfather grew up there. He's a moonshiner. And I'm like, oh, okay.
He's a
And she's like
what?
telling me a moonshiner. Like
I was
her
just going to
family.
say, I bet you there were moonshiners
Oh,
there.
yes. Yes. It was like a whole mountain of moonshiners. And so I was like, wow, I didn't think I was going to be writing a book about moonshiners. But after hearing her story, I'm like, okay. So there's the present day. And then there's this past timeline about murder, moonshiners, and a preacher. And it's all woven together. And this woman is finding out a family connection to the people up in Bitter End and why her two neighbors have, even though they live down the street from each other, have been estranged for 60 years.
Quirky, quirky.
So many quirky characters in this
Yeah.
one.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. As soon as you started describing things, I thought, oh no, she's going to run across a still and they're going to shoot her with a, they're going to shoot at the van with their little, so,
The lady
yeah.
in the Victorian house was like, you went up there? Like, she was worried for us. Now, I've gone to some places in the back roads of Tennessee where we've taken a wrong turn going somewhere, and I've been a little nervous. I wasn't nervous up there. I didn't get that feeling, but she was worried for us.
Yeah. There, I grew up in Missouri. And so there are places in the Ozarks that we call them Billy Joe Bob areas. So you got to be careful. Yeah. Oh, well, I can't wait. Do you
It was
have
an
a
adventure.
do you have a projected release date?
It'll be summer 2025.
Okay.
So probably August.
Okay. Okay. So same
Yeah,
air,
about a year. Yeah.
range. Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that the A2A interview blog has some great information, but I don't know if we're going to be able to top this story. This story about the Moonshiners. My husband watches that show. Have you ever seen that show
I've
on?
heard of it, but I haven't seen it. I
Yeah,
have to check it out.
he was. Yeah, you probably should. He was addicted to it, and it was like, honey, I have a question. They're recording all this. Why haven't they been arrested? This is like the third season. I mean, it's not like they're hiding.
Right.
So they're not hiding from the cameras. But yeah. So then after a while, he was like, oh, yeah, that's right. So, so one of the questions I asked Amanda is, do you have a superpower and how do you use that for the good of the world?
Okay, so I would say that my superpower is being having a collection of completely useless information in my head. So we'll be like driving along and we'll see something and I'll start talking about it. My husband will look at me. He's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just collect." It's not usually anything that's particularly useful, like a skill or a trade or how to do something. It's just off the wall fact that is just stuck inside my head. But it really comes in handy when you're writing because you'll be writing
Mhm.
along and your mind will make a connection to some random fact you know. And he's like, "How do you collect these?" I'm like, "I don't know. I wish that sometimes I wish I had a brain that could just like really collect historical facts. I love history, but no matter how much I study history, it's like it will not stick in my brain. But some really random fact about something that happened in history will stick in my brain and I will know all about this little niche thing.
Yeah.
But I just have to embrace the fact that I can remember random facts. And if you ask me one right now, I couldn't give one to you because it has to come out of some random moment.
Yeah. Something has to trigger. It's
Yeah, like
like, yeah. And like my husband and I, we are movie people. So there's certain movies that have these wonderful lines, and somebody will just use a word, and then all of a sudden we're repeating these lines from the
right.
movie. So
So there's your superpower.
that's my superpower is useless movie lines.
Love it.
So on that note, this month's giveaway is a copy of Between the Sound and the Sea. And then also, Amanda's got something fun as well.
So I am going to send the winner, see if I can make it more visible. This is sea salt that is harvested by a small local company in the Outer Banks, the Hatteras Salt Works. And so it's like gourmet sea salt. I have some of this and it's fantastic. So I'm going to send one of these to.
Oh, nice. Now, what's the little dark specks in there?
This is rosemary. So this is
Okay.
rosemary infused sea salt.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So you get a little salty souvenir of Between the Sound and the Sea. So, viewers, I bet you really want this giveaway. And the way to do that, you can enter up to 6 times. And the way to do that is to check out the blog interview, but also to like, comment, and share and subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber to the YouTube channel and to the for my newsletter, as long as you comment and like and share, you will get those extra entries, which is kind of nice. And then unfortunately, only the entries from the contiguous US. So no Alaska or Hawaii. So haven't figured out that one yet. And then the drawing will be held Friday, August 16th. So you have a little bit of time. So, Amanda, do you have any final words?
Final words. Today, I want you to go find something to read that brings you joy.
Mm, mm, I like that. So, thanks for watching the 44th interview episode. And one last reminder to be sure to go down the description section and check out all those links. And Amanda and I really appreciate the likes and follows and subscribes to our social media. We really appreciate that. It's our way of keeping in touch with you. So next month, my A2A featured author is best-selling and multi-award winning author, Carrie Turansky. So Carrie's been a longtime friend. I've known her for a couple decades, and she is a sweetie pie as well as a talented writer. So viewers, thanks for watching. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next month. But in the meantime, God bless and keep
Keep reading.
reading.